Awesome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a 1v1 draft lockout Hollow Knight randomizer showcase between Valentin and Gundam. My name is Quacksilver. I'm joined here by Herm on the mic.
Yes, this is going to be a really exciting race. Draft lockout is a relatively new format, similar to most lockout formats you've seen, in that we are racing to 13 goals and only one player can mark each goal. But you can see here there's 10 goals marked in brown and blue, and each player has selected five that only they can mark for the first 30 minutes. So it'll be a really interesting choice about strategy here regarding those goals, and we'll just have to see how everything works out.
Yeah, so some of the randomization features that we're playing with this time we include what has now sort of become the standard randomization feature for Hollow Knight Rando, which randomizes stags, relics, most major items like dreamers, skills, and charms as well. We are also playing with added lore tablet randomization. So you saw that Desolate Dive that Volley picked up at the first lore tablet in King's Pass, as well as boss geo randomization. Boss enemies like Crystal Guardian or Gruzmother will now have randomized checks at them instead. The other notable thing is the split claw feature.
The split claw is something that sort of came into existence thanks to folks like Flib and Pimpus, who are sort of big in the community coding different things. And this allows us to have our wall jump only work on one wall. Thankfully, most things are still applicable with only one side of claw, but you might have to do some pretty curved skips to deal with them.
Yeah, and my understanding is, yeah, while there are relatively few things that you can't get to with either claw, I was talking a little bit before the race, and I think right mantis claw is the one you're a little bit less happy to see on average. Also, on Gundam screen, showing off some of the recent QOL improvements with the recent items tracker, which is just a nice little way of tracking what you've been up to lately. So looking at this board, obviously in the draft phase, you'll notice that the racers have gone for mostly early accessible goals. You've got something like kill a Durandu, kill an Aluba, kill Mila. A lot of murder on the board tonight.
Yeah, for sure. It's very interesting as well because you can just sort of notice that the goals that aren't marked are either things that are just really hard to do, frustrating things like go do Traitor Lord, all the Deep Nest scrubs, Dream bosses, or just sort of random obtains, like the King Station stag could be anywhere in the land of Hallownest and there's nothing you can do about it. So pretty.
Was that the end of the Pilgrim's Way lore tablet? At the beginning of the Pilgrim's Way lore tablet? I love it.
I believe it was. Switching things around, yeah. And so we're just gonna have to see, but yeah, these players are gonna want to try to get their five drafted goals marked within the first 30 minutes because obviously things get a little bit more annoying when you can get locked out of them.
Yeah, and worth noting, here's the first major split. Yeah, since we did get Desolate Dive very early on into this race, that is a Balder killer. It's one of a long list of Balder killers. Even on easy logic, Dive is a logical way to green path. So while Volley is going to continue through Crossroads in the typical rando circuit, taking advantage of that right claw to get up to this Go Master, Gundam is going to run directly into green path. And usually in Lockout, being where your opponent isn't is a very, very valuable thing, because if you are where your opponent is, especially if you're behind them, you are guaranteed to lose.
Yes, and it's really going to depend, because in the end, I mean, both of these runners certainly have the means to go where they're going right now, but if one of them has to backtrack and go do stuff, or if one of them finds something more conducive to their goals, like for example, I note that Gundam has a defeat 0 on there, they need to find a Dream Mail, and also talk to Claw, I believe, right, Mantis Claw does despawn Claw in Fungal, so a few unfortunate things that he may want additional items for if he doesn't have to backtrack.
Yeah, it was also worth noting that Volley picked up Spore Shroom there. Spore Shroom has a little bit of a buff in Lore Tablet Rando, because all of the Lore Tablets in Fungal Wastes require Spore Shroom as part of their pickup condition. So that is unironically a decent piece of progression in this race. It's also worth noting
Yeah.
that Gundam ran right to Green Path. Gundam is eyeing that read 3 lore tablets, or I suppose check 3 lore tablets in Green Path goal, but a lot of the other Green Path goals were drafted by Vale, with that kill an Aluba and a Durandus. So I think it's wise of Vale to put that off for a little while, knowing that, you know, he's got 25 more minutes to go snap up those goals.
Yeah. No, and in the end, I think you're definitely right about that, Quack, because, right, Volley has the freedom to sort of be wherever he would like, in Crossroads for a while, and check some of these checks that you'd probably be checking if you didn't have progression. But yeah, we're just gonna have to see what pays off, what doesn't. Because I think that, you know, Upper Green Path is a very check-dense area, but in terms of goals, you're absolutely right that it's probably not the best play for Gundam here with only one. Although, yeah, Heavy Blow, as you can see, is something Gundam has obtained, but it's not something that he can currently mark because it is Volley's drafted goal.
Yep, so right away, the draft format coming into play here. And yeah, Herm, to your point, the addition of more tablets to the randomization pool simply makes Green Path a lot more check dense early on. It's sort of very powerful in that regard with, I think, 6 lore tablets total added to the
7.
random pool. 7 even?
So, yeah, there's a lot you can do in Green Path. With the checks already being fairly dense, and I mean, you can look as well. Fly King, that boss trio is a check. You saw Gundam or Volley earlier pick up the Helena seal from Grez's mother. So, yeah, Green Path's very, very strong in this format of rando. Unless Gundam dies to VK, that would be unfortunate, but looks like he'll be just fine.
Taking a little bit of safety. Also using for a little bit the cheese, where if you stand on the side platforms there, Fly King won't actually attack you. You're gonna make it through there fine. Meanwhile, Volley doing through the round of shop checks. Shop's looking pretty barren. I don't think I saw. There was a lot of lore tablets there, which is unsurprising.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw
you can
anything
learn very much from lore shop. Yeah, sort of will be the standard false night rounds on Volley's side, and looks like Gundam has picked up the wayward compass, now is aware of where he is going. You'll love to see it. And yeah, we'll just have to see this sort of stag thing is a few checks. But nothing groundbreaking so far from either player.
And there's Cyclone Slash. That is a hard logic boulder killer, but for our purposes, just progression towards that obtained to nail arts. And yeah, looking at the goals that are not drafted by either runner, all of the static goals that are up for grabs are very, very long and often requiring multiple progression things. Like, I don't think anyone, even though you can technically get up there, I suppose, I don't know that anyone's running to defeat Pale Lurker yet.
I don't think so at all. I really think that a lot of these, you know, things like Pale Lurker, Dog Defender, Traitor Lord, those aren't 2 dream bosses. Those are really not your first choices out here. Volley finding Wraith, not directly helping towards anything goals-wise, but is a helpful damage upgrade. But yeah, I think that you're mostly hoping to find some nice random obtains outside of your drafted goals, because some of those can be really brutal.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that Gundam, having now done a tour of most of the lore tablets in Green Path here, is still not marking the Read 3 lore tablets goal. In Lockout, as opposed to Blackout, you are free to hide any goals that you have completed and mark them at any time. Usually that is done to sort of psych other runners out about where you are on the map, and especially in the draft format, where you can freely, you know, have 30 minutes where that goal can go unchallenged. Gundam free to hold this goal for quite a while if he so chooses.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the truth. Is exactly as Quack said. Sort of Lockout is all about being where your opponent isn't, and the other side of that is that if you can get your opponent to follow you, it's huge, because your opponent is making no new checks and you're making all of them. So any random obtain, you're the first to, all that stuff. And so sometimes it's very, very strategic to sort of hold off on things. And it looks like, yeah, Volley is going to follow into Green Path. So this will be a while for him, because Green Path is a big area, as you've already seen, whereas Gundam will be heading down, likely towards Queen Station.
Yep, it is worth noting, if this loop does continue into Fungal, eventually Volley will have that Spore Shroom. Or no. Yeah, no, Volley having done the Crossroads Circuit will eventually have that Spore Shroom, but Green Path is large, and so there is no Roman likelihood that there's some sort of additional progression here. And even if not, with Right Claw, you can get to a number of places. Right Claw alone is, I believe, sufficient for a shade skip to Blue Lake. So most of the map is, in theory, open, but a dash would be pretty nice right about now.
Yeah, a dash would be highly appreciated. There's sort of this age-old adage in Hollow Knight Randomizer of, randomizer is great, but it's only fun once you have dash. And that's because you can do a lot of things dashless, but it's just painful. And so these runners are definitely going to be hoping for a dash coming up soon.
Yeah, Gundam taking the safety heals in Fog Canyon. Yep, don't want to get bullied by anything that blows up.
And we'll head back to Queen Station here. And yeah, into Fungal likely. We'll just have to see, because unfortunately there will not be any talking to Cloth here now that he has acquired Claw. Cloth sort of runs away to the ancient basin, which is likely in a manner not what he was hoping for. Though a Right Claw is probably a lot better than not being able to do one goal immediately.
Yeah, Cloth is probably, from among the goals drafted, well, Cloth on Gundam's side and Equip 5 Charms at the same time on Gundam's side. Those are sort of hedgy goals to draft, because those could come at you very early, or those could be pretty late. So a good mix of goals in the draft phase. As Gundam picks up Green Nail.
That's big. Green Nail is one of the most important objects in Hollow Knight. And as you can see, Gundam has Defeat Zero drafted on his side. You need Dream Nail to do so. Zero is a Dream Warrior, so you gotta dream open distance to fight. And yeah, that's good stuff overall.
Oh, that's huge. So there's that Spore Shroom coming into play. Gundam also looked like he might have been setting up for a cheeky skip there to Palm Relic with Right Claw and Air Stall only, but either concluded it was impossible or decided against going for it. But that is big. So now...
Air Stall right now?
Oh no, Wraith was on the other side, you're right. So now it is just a matter of time before Volley finds that dash, assuming that he continues the same loop here, and Gundam going to be on a bit of a ticking clock here to grab a Spore Shroom.
Yes, absolutely, and that's the thing, is he has no means of understanding that Volley has Spore Shroom right now. There's no hint or anything towards it. Because the thing is, he doesn't really know where Volley's been for the past entire segment of this run. See if Volley decides to mark heavy blow at this point or hold off until the end of the draft period. But, it could be mildly disastrous if there's not another dash nearby.
So it looks like both runners now are at a Phantom 1 goal, but it's a question at this point of, will they remember to mark, at the 29-minute mark so that their opponent can't snatch that from them. Meanwhile, Leg Eater, other than some free Geo, continues the trend of the shops not being the greatest thing ever in this seed.
Although Gundam picking up that Crossroads stack, and that's really not a bad play for him at all, simply because, with the amount of Geo Leg Eater provided and the price of the stack, it's virtually better than free. And additionally, considering Gundam hasn't even taken a trip into Crossroads, it will be pretty good for when he reaches a point. Also, hopefully gets the opportunity to do things like kill Nyla, positions him very well for that.
Definitely a Kill Mila, of course, gated behind the Crystal Heart ability. But then once you get that, she is freely accessible.
Oh, she's
And
here.
she is here. All right.
I did not know
Half
that.
claw,
Oh,
not
look
enough
at
to
you.
banish Cloth to the underworld. So Gundam going to
resilient.
bank that goal for a little later.
Yes. Well, that's certainly a pleasant surprise to your commentators and likely something expected from the more experienced Gundam here. But we'll pick up an egg at this lore tablet and continue on. It looks like Volley's going to be fighting Hornet 1. This is not a check we saw from Gundam, I believe. So it will be interesting. It's a bit of a longer check, but obviously if it pays off, it pays off.
Yeah, and Volley's been doing an excellent job of making quick work of these early bosses with his spells. You saw the Wraith's quick kill on Venge Fly King earlier. And Gundam, meanwhile, with only the right claw, still required to do E-Pogo in order to get up there because there is only a left wall on this side. So thankfully, with the QOL that is sort of bundled with the randomizer mod, we do have the ability to do explosion pogo like it's an earlier patch. But Gundam having a little bit of trouble with it here. Very unfortunate. Decides to go around rather than just dying.
And it looks like Volley's going to be doing some sort of air stalls to feign having dash and just bench at the like run, or alternatively just go kill an Aluba. I'm realizing is the proper play here. Makes a lot of sense. Thankfully can just get over there using Howling Wraiths and an understanding of how air stalls work. But yeah,
and especially with that VS pickup, that Vengeful Spirit pickup at the Hornet fight, this is now a trivial Aluba kill. Oh, not if you miss the Aluba.
And not if you run out of soul. Last Night does not respawn. Although it seems that Volley might not know that, trying to warp back and just sort of stare into the lake. But, oh lord. Yeah. Walks off the pier, and it looks like Gundam will be heading down to the Brenna bench, having read one of 2 Mantis Village lore tablets.
Yep, so Volley with the up slashes of frustration, but at least has the bench for later. Dash or an upgraded spell or wings. Lots of things that can get you that Aluba kill pretty much with a quick bench warp back.
For sure. Yeah, and that's the thing. It looks like contemplating the proper method of murder for this wonderful, though maybe not now with the amount of work required. So we'll be heading to Salubra. This could be a Shades figure. Teaching Lake. It looks like it will be. And I think that Gundam did not... Did Gundam do the second lore tablet?
I don't know that Gundam did.
I do not think so.
Deep into Mantis Village, opting instead to take a crossroads stag up and head towards Crystal Peaks with the dive we got right at the beginning of the game. You can bypass Mila, will return later. Gundam in particular will return later. But this has been in logic for basically as long as the game has been. Gundam trying to get fancy with the air stall for that ransom egg check over there. Maybe just trying to drop faster with Cyclone. But gonna be in peaks. Without any movement, there's only one check to do here. I think right claw opens up but maybe not, honestly, because the spike tunnel has walls that are barely required on both sides. So it may just be a dark room check and then we're done.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I mean, this could be like a truly, because I'm not very familiar with the Peaks dark room item list, but this could be a trip towards Zero as well, considering Zero's on Gundam's side of the board. I think that looks like what he's doing, because if you head through this dark room, and important to note here, Gundam does not have the Lumafly lantern, so he's going to need to do this route based on muscle memory. But I believe that, you know, most randomizer players of his caliber who play a lot are pretty practiced with this. You just need to sort of get it first try and it's okay. And if you don't reset the route. But it looks like it's fine for Gundam here, taking a few hits, but that's no matter. We'll head out and down to the rest of the tracks.
Yeah, so a couple things to note on that. One, that dark room is not logical, right? We are playing on easy logic, I believe, so
Yeah,
dark rooms
not.
are never considered logical. However, through the skipped Blue Lake, I believe you could still arrive at this stuff anyway, so I don't think that this is a crazy logic break, although Paul only may be medium, so we may be out of logic here.
Although no shade skips in easy logic either, so we are definitely out of logic.
And the big thing also is about that dark room. It used to be that you could always do the dark room. In earlier versions of Randomizer, you could always do the dark room and stop you on your way into peak. So it was very common to have first progression being going through that dark room. And so yes, there is a long-standing practice of that dark room, even itemless in the Randomizer community. So no sweat for Gundam as he finishes off 0 here and claims another Phantom Gold as we're coming up on the end of our drafting period before too long here.
Yeah, we really are. Yeah, good 0 try from Gundam. Could have been a lot faster on Volley's side due to his possession of Wraith, but in the end it's Gundam's goal and gets it just fine. And we'll head through the rest of these checks. Resting Grounds is a pretty good checks area, as Quack said. Sometimes your first progression in earlier versions of Randomizer. And pretty nice overall, but does have to do these really long dream platforms as Volley reaches Brightside City, which is an area that sort of is just a central area of the map, really good place to have overall, but not super check dense at the moment.
Yeah, it is a bit unfortunate that we have seen a dash, we know where it is, and yet neither runner has put all of the things together to access it. As Gundam is going to check Seer here, it looks like Seer is kind of bust. Oh, there's another dash.
That's a dash. 629, I believe, was the number on that. And a Queen Station Stag, which is a gold. So if you're farming for dash, it's only another something in the neighborhood of 50 to 60 essence to get the stag. So that's actually a pretty good synergy there. But yeah, as Quack said, it is kind of unfortunate that Volley has all the components necessary to go grab a dash, and has just sort of found greener pastures, and by greener we mean less progressive pastures, on a different portion of the map. But we'll likely see some sort of circling around at a point, hopefully.
Eventually without dash, you do run out of checks that you enjoy doing, even if with the claw you don't necessarily run out of checks wholesale. And both runners are doing a very excellent job of staying pretty far apart from one another. So we are going to, as Gundam, there is a second nail art. So we get the first real one on the board.
And it makes sense. If you have a non-drafted goal, especially one that's a random obtain, I mean, obtaining 2 nail arts reveals mostly nothing about your position, and you just never know when your opponent's gonna get there, and so in the end it makes the most. And there's 3 nail arts, so I'm wondering if we'll see an eventual check of Nail Master's glory from Gundam. But Gundam, very, very well set up to go ahead and do that.
I believe that was merely the second nail art, just a little bit of stream delay on Gundam's side. So yes, I suspect a little bird is telling me that that'll be the King Station Stag.
There we go. Okay. Yes, I am merely believing so much in the existence of there not being any delay. Too much change on this fine morning. But yeah, King Station Stag will put Gundam right in Volley's land. It looks like he'll be warping out, which at this point is somewhat of a wise choice, considering that, you know, there's a lot to do and you never want to be following.
And meanwhile, Volley, with the heads-up play of remembering the charm notches at Salubra, has just enough stuff to equip 5 charms at the same time.
Would love
So
to
going to
see
get
it.
that drafted goal out of the way. So although the score on the board, as Gundam starts to mark drafted goals as well, so our formal score on the board is 3-0 right now, but Volley has a number of
Heavy
things
blow,
in
5
the way.
charms so far. No Aluba, no Durandu, but I think we're seeing Kill a Durandu right now, and I'm guessing we'll see Kill an Aluba in short order, because Volley isn't aware that Gundam hasn't done the Hornet 1 fight. And so I'm guessing that with the amount of ease associated with that goal, we'll likely find a way. Oh, and did get nailed too. I think I just forgot about that. That will make killing a Durandu particularly easy. So yeah, Volley gonna be able to clean up pretty much all of his drafted goals.
It's just a shame that Aluba got away from him. But now that we are coming out of the drafting period, we are at 4-3. I believe Gundam still has the ability to mark 3 lore tablets in green path, and we'll want to do that before we're actually formally out of the drafting period. Unless that goal is about specifically reading green path lore, but otherwise I feel like they would have bought stags, or rather bought lore tablets from shops, if that were actually the case. So I'm assuming we'll see that marked in short order here.
And I also simply predict that if it were to be to obtain green path lore tablets, it would likely not as attractive to draft initially, because I feel that, you know, there are probably other things that you could draft, while not exactly your first choice. Definitely some things on there you could think that are a little bit more determined, because there is a lot of lore in this game, tablets-wise. Volley's heading down the Queen Station, which means that if he continues on this path, he will have dash very soon. And that's kind of dangerous for Gundam, especially considering the fact that, you know, going back to Pulse, he will find raises, which is definitely nice to see, but Volley's going to have a significant lead in terms of progression, so...
Yeah, and now that we've got a lot of the early game goals off the board, there's not a whole lot that is immediately drawing the runners in any particular direction. Like, we've seen Queen Station said that it's a relatively high essence cap, and none of the other goals are like immediate pulls, with the possible exception of if Gundam doesn't snap up his drafted lore tablet goals. So at that point it just becomes a check race, and in a raw check race, the person who does have dash is much better suited for that scenario.
Yes.
Although, as we say that, Volley orbit play.
Oh my goodness, I believe I'm cursed a little bit, because it is just rather funny. Only gonna go save the grub here, you'll love to see it. But yeah, I just think that in a raw checks race, if Volley's able to have that for Gundam, that's huge. But it appears that he simply may not, and he could be doing something similar to what Gundam did here, which would be to head into resting grounds via peaks, and if he were to do that, he would definitely realize he's following, especially with defeat 0 already marked.
Yeah, I mean, defeat 0 is a very good indicator, but the nice confirmation is Volley does pick up a lore tablet there. The confirmation of getting the dash slash and king station stag out of crypts for Volley would be a good confirmation of like knowing to what extent Gundam has been through here and cleared it all out.
Yeah, that's kind of an unfortunate realization to have after you've sort of done the entire dark room to peaks, dropping down, going through the Dreamnail cutscene, which is just an ordeal in terms of length. And so hopefully Volley's able to just sort of, you know, clear things out as quickly as possible. It looks like, yeah, Gundam's going to be marking the green path lore tablets, so that's certainly good that's happening.
Gorgeous Husk is considered a boss, so there is that boss to go Paler. I believe that's what Volley got nailed two off
yeah. So we're just gonna have to see at this point, because Volley avoiding that dash that is secretly so wonderfully in front of him like the plague. And Gundam's heading in a similar direction, so we're just gonna have to see. Because at this point, Gundam is in the following position right now. So likely relatively unaware of the fact that the side's nailed too. But with a Paler, I don't know, there may be some hints. But overall, this is just sort of a good segment to go through at any point. Just some really powerful benches, the ability to sell to Lem, and Volley heading into waterways, which is definitely a good choice. Having difficulty in peaks, which Gundam also has. I'm wondering if we'll see a similar choice, or we'll see rafters. Yeah, we're going to see a similar choice here for Gundam. So,
all right. It's worth noting that the boss logic, especially as it applies to Roman Waterway, has been updated several times in the last. It used to be the case that you could be expected to fight Fluke Barb with just the loadout that Volley has right now. You've got Dive and you've got another spell, and that was enough for Fluke Barb logic. And there were many horror stories of seeds where your first intended dash was at the Fluke Barb.
The dreaded Fluke seed.
As more and more rando racers have joined the community and rightfully raised the idea that that's insane, the boss logic was updated first for specifically Fluke Marm to require an upgraded spell other than D-Dark, so that you're not in the position of having to chain die to Fluke Marm for a dash, and then later a groundswell was for adding dash to boss logic on easy, so that you are no longer required to do some things like dashless Grim, which used to be a very, very large pain point. However, the practice for some of these bosses with relatively low equipment and no dash is still very much in the community, and so we see Volley running right to Dung Defender. Probably not going to have too much trouble.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very popular sentiment in the community, especially in Lockout. You'll see most community races be on easy logic, with sort of the general quote being, well, I don't want the skips to be required of me, but I'll do all of the skips I like, which is typically a lot. And we're going to see, Volley doing Dung Defender, which with Dive, for some reason Team Cherry decided that, Dung Defender would have the absolute clear weakness of Dive. And it does look like Gundam's falling a little bit, but this goal should get marked before there's too much falling. So I'm guessing we'll see sort of a warp out from Gundam upon recognizing that. But that is unfortunate that he's following this far, because you never want to be... Although this left claw there, well, there may be additional consideration.
That is your classic lockout, especially as Gundam will get to the end of the delay here. I'll see if he warps out before doing the fight, or if he's already here. Yep, right at the doorstep. That is a classic lockout. So if that were just Mantis Claw, right? If that were that couldn't logically happen, but if that were just Mantis Claw, that would be one of those lockout situations where it's basically game over. You put major progression behind a boss, and one player marks the boss, and you have no reason to go to that boss as the other player. With Split Claw, the calculus is a little bit different, because unless we have required things in White Palace, there are relatively few things that Gundam straight up cannot do. However, this, in addition to just being a good goal mark for Volley, is much harder for Gundam to make some of these checks.
Yeah, it is really unfortunate, and thankfully Gundam has enough practice with this sort of stuff that it's definitely not a game over, but it is, especially if Volley finds that dash that he has unfortunately not been able to find thus far. Though there is actually a chance that just by virtue of having this sort of double claw and feeling groovy about the whole thing, it leads to sort of a larger ignorance of dash going forward. But we'll have to see going as as Gundam's gonna head for that hidden station stag. I really like this play because understanding that your opponent is in waterways and has done all of these different things, you definitely wanna get the heck out of there. But will not pursue anything in basin. Also makes sense with only the right claw. But a good check to make before your opponent gets out of the area they're frequenting.
Yeah, and meanwhile, fortunately for Gundam, the rest of waterways, at least beyond the Flukmarm portion, seems to be turning up fairly empty outside of that hidden station stag, which Gundam did beat volley to.
Yes, and it looks like Gundam's going to be heading up to do sort of these checks in sort of the upper portion of city. I do not believe that volley did the city arena, and that's a very long check, but I believe volley did check this any percent journal here. Not as bad by any means. But yeah, I'm really wondering if we're going to see Mantis or tablets in volley here, because Gundam sort of neglected to do that second one, which really could bite him, if I'm being honest, simply due to the fact that he has that bench and it's not too bad for him. But at this point, volley has been through waterways and is there.
Yeah, this could be a very effective snipe while Gundam is preoccupied with right city. And here you see the absence of left Mantis Claw coming back to haunt.
This is, of the remaining checks that have sort of not been modified in easy logic, this is, at least for me as a newer player to the randomizer, the City of Tears arena was certainly a cause of tears for me in easy logic, in that Pogo is a mod that is not too bad, but also you can be expected to do this with relatively low loadouts. And if you don't understand how the Ravas go, it can be a City of Tears for you. But thankfully, Gundam has some spells. Race and Dive are really the things that you want here, or if you're being Shade Die, BS to get your Shade. But it should be just fine. And yeah, Volley's gonna head up to this journal, and then yeah, it looks like gonna grab the second lore tablet here. This will be a really effective snipe, as Gundam coming up with the ever so sad steady body, having obtained both. But that goal is marked and was drafted, so.
Yep, and there is a what you never hope to see, a goal reserved by one player and then marked by the other. And then volley coming here, you will notice there are two Mantis Claw checks, because that's where left claw and right claw would be picked
and
up.
Right claw.
If vanilla.
And another simple key is big. I think we're seeing a warp straight to Dirtmouth at this point, because OpenGG's hut is on the board. You can't do that with your first simple key, because if you attempt to do so, you get a cheeky little Pokemon-based text of "Go to waterways, please. We want you to be able to do those checks." But with a second simple key, absolutely OpenGG's hut, and that's a pretty free goal right away for volley. So looking good so far as Gundam sort of air stalls to Moss Charger. Thankfully, volley doesn't have any sort of progression lead right now, but with heading to Queen Station, that could be a sentence that is falsified very soon.
Yep. It's looking like one, and thankfully they got right claw, so there will be no need to fireball skip your way into fungal waste.
Yes. Oh, there's the simple key that is tragic. Just too little too late for Gundam. Unfortunate, as if that simple key had been found about 2 minutes earlier, would have been a very nice goal mark for him.
Yeah, 6-6 is a situation you'd much rather be in than 7-5 on goals.
Yeah. Volley finding that
Volley's dream now. And I think Volley still has Spore Shroom equipped, although I'm not 100% confident.
I believe that he does. He's sort of kept, I've seen sort of Dream Wielder and Spore Shroom be portions of his regular loadout, and yep, there it is.
There it is. What?
Did he sort of have to, I think he believed he wanted to check, wanted to really make sure, even though that yes option was there, it's really important that you make sure your game isn't glitching out and you're taking it in the utmost integrity. But that's a dash for volley, and that is huge, because so much speed, so much comfort, everything.
Meanwhile, it looks like Gundam had an unfortunate screen glitch, so we're just going to quickly let some delay get through. Volley is pausing while Gundam sorts through that on the prior screen, so we'll get back into the action in just a sec here. But that was Gundam trolling around looking for GG's hut, not finding it. So yeah, there's the pause, and it looks like we will be right back into things.
Yep, and here's
So
a check
Gundam
of
will
Palm
unpause.
Relic. Volley already flexing that dash. And yeah, I mean this is pretty big. Dash makes any boss infinitely more comfortable. It makes any check infinitely more accessible. And just overall such a QOL improvement. There's a lot you could do without dash, as Quack said, but there's not a lot that you want to do without dash. So it's pretty big, especially with the other dash being visibly at 628 essence, I believe, 629. That is something that is unfortunately visible for Gundam because it is doable, but it's just a huge, huge time waste and just a lot of pain overall. So if we were to see something along the lines of just the infinitely cursed two dashless dream bosses, I suppose it could happen, but just not what you want to see.
Yeah, you don't want to be in the back seat for that, and unfortunately getting essence is one of those things that is just so much easier if you have dash in the first place.
Yup, and now with that dash, Volley will go kill the Aluba. Thankfully unimpeded in this goal for the most part. Gundam never really decided to rush it, which makes sense. Hornet 1 takes a while, and probably figured that Volley was at least set up for it, given the ease. But Gundam will head into Edge, and really what he's hoping for here is some lively new tech. Because at this point, it would be really, really helpful for him if he could get a dash or even a C-dash that would allow killing Mila, as well as some speedy horizontal movement if you remember to use it.
Meanwhile, Volley having some trouble with that Aluba kill still. Having killed the Moss Knight, Un's devoted prior, has no easy soul farming way to just get under the Aluba and Wraith. So after missing the dash out slash a couple times, decides to warp away and trust that Gundam will not try too hard to contest kill an Aluba because it's been this long past the draft phase and it still hasn't been marked. So Valley has no choice really but to warp away and hope for the best.
Yep, absolutely. You can see as Valley falls into Kingdom's Edge, you can make this check that is very left claw based, although from what I've heard, with the utmost correct positioning you can somehow do without right claw, without left claw. But in this case, yeah, we'll be heading or attempting to head into the upper part of Kingdom's Edge and instead sort of going lower. Queen's Garden Stag is definitely an interesting pickup. It is not on the board. We have Queen Station instead, but it does give you access to a whole new area of checks that could be very powerful. So yeah, Gundam decides it's worth the 800 Geo and is going to also head down to these quick slash checks, which are quite dense.
Yeah, it also makes complete the green path route, which does require upper QG access, a lot less painful.
And trader mode access is really easy.
Yeah, that's anything that allows you to bypass the fabled worst arena in the game, the second Queen's Gardens arena with waves upon waves of Mantis Traders and Petras. Anything that lets you move beyond that, which is specifically QG Stag, is a good thing.
Yeah, and Gundam moving through here, this is technically a spike tunnel, so it's only logical on hard logic without dash, but as we know, dash is definitely something earlier in the logic chain. It's not too bad if you get the right positioning. So Gundam will head up here and check quick slash once you get through all the Astas and such. Whereas Volley's choosing to head more into Upper Kingdom's Edge, and that's a lantern. Not anything incredibly useful given the prevalence of dark rooms and the fact that they already have peaks access, but honestly, not the worst thing you could pick up in the world.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, if you're looking to grab that dash at Essence and that Queen Station Stag at Essence, No Eyes is right there. And I don't think we've actually seen the Stone Sanctuary Dark Room checked at all yet, so at the very least,
no, we have
checked.
not.
But like, of all of the Dark Rooms, of all of the of all of the Dream Warriors, rather, to fight without dash, No Eyes sort of sucks the same without dash, because she just straight teleports away from you. It's not a question of can you move fast enough to keep up, honestly.
Yeah, it looks like Gundam's gonna grab this check first, and then sort of. I would expect to see No Eyes here, because at this point, if you haven't, if you have no idea as to where Sports Room could be, um, then you've got to do what you got to do, and just go for it. Although a warp out here, it looks like gonna go to that Queen's Garden stag. It seems like there's likely a nail or mark of pride to be found there.
Yeah, there it is. And I
Yeah,
also saw the lore tablet at Combo 2. Honestly, a reward I think Volley should consider fighting for, maybe. Gotta know what the lore is.
I
But
mean,
instead, opting for the Pale Lurker fight, which might be a similar call.
what knowledge the Oblobbles could carry with them. They are storied creatures, and probably could teach our dear randomizer runners a lot. But instead, Volley will opt to, do the goals, as I suppose we do sometimes in randomizer. Go fight Pale Lurker, finding a King's Idol as you normally would there. And yeah, Pale Lurker's a very annoying fight, dashless, but also has a pretty significant amount of damage and dash, so should be fine.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the things that I think we may have been underrating about this race is Volley marking or drafting the nail 2 goal.
Yeah.
It is often the case in randomizer that you want to delay getting nail upgrades for a long time, because if your nail is too powerful, you can complicate or lock yourself out of being able to do certain skips. But they did have half of a claw very early in this, like King's Pass early, and also there was only defeat 0 on the board in terms of Dream Warriors, which scale with your nail upgrades. So for most of the action of this race, the nail upgrades have just been straight advantage for Volley. And so the fact that he drafted that out early actually seems very, very strong, especially as we move towards the late game where you see these bosses like Traitor Lord, like Dream bosses, starting to enter the consciousness of these runners.
Yeah, you truly have to wonder if it was the type thing where Gundam just decided, yeah, okay, defeat 0, and then after that, Volley was like, all right, I'm gonna do nail 2 stuff. Gundam doing this incredibly frustrating sort of dashless Togo over to Howling Cliffs. But yeah, I think that is absolutely, as Quack said, a very wise decision. And so many bosses on the board, and just things like Pale Lurker does not have a lot of hit points. I believe it's something in the neighborhood of like 290, very low, but she can be an absolute pain, and thankfully Volley was able to deal with her just fine, because had the nail, had the swings, able to get the soul and do those dives. And so yeah, honestly kind of a valuable choice. Nail upgrades on the right board can be really powerful.
Yeah, and Volley also heading to the Tiso quest here. Swat Tiso's shield away from his corpse. One of the few, like, straight-up dash locked goals on the board. There, some things like Traitor Lord, obviously, that require Shade Cloak, but Tiso doesn't show up in Dirtmouth until you have Mothwing Cloak specifically. So that will be at least a disclosure to Gundam that, hey, there is a dash somewhere in this race that you have missed. The worst case scenario, I think, is if Gundam concludes that Volley somehow did the essence for dash, but given that 2 Dream Bosses hasn't been marked, and there's not a whole lot of pull for 600 essence otherwise, and there's also a goal there that would be a tell, I'm assuming Gundam will simply look about for another dash he may have missed earlier in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, Gundam trying to do all that stuff, as you can see, it's just like, it can be really painful to do certain things without dash. But in the end, just trying to find sort of new ground to tread, new checks to grab, because a lot of these goals are really unappealing to a degree, especially without dash. So it's just going to be about, especially with Volley having an 8-6 lead soon to be with the continuation of everything, like a 9-6 without dash for Gundam just could be very frustrating.
Yeah, like what's Gundam's path to victory here, right? Presumably, it hinges around finding dash in some capacity,
Yeah.
but like Gundam has the slightly more development into QG, so maybe hoping for a Shade Cloak to
Hmm.
grab Green Path Route and Traitor Lord. Also wants to get ahead on Essence, probably sooner rather than later, especially now that Volley has seen the Queen's Station Stag as the goal at Essence. Um, so if you're
Yeah,
Gundam
it
here,
looks
this
like
may be the
the
difficult
Ghost might be
position.
up here,
Oh no,
which
yeah.
I really, I, I, I personally, unless there's an immediate warp to from Volley, yeah, Volley finishing this whole Tiso deal. I actually like this from Gundam simply because otherwise this is just something sort of Volley has had in the bank the entire time, and Gundam is going to grab the VS here necessary to kill the Aluba. And if he can get this, I mean, in my opinion, it's pretty nice. And then I agree. After that, I think that you really have to hope that you get dash, or just like honestly, I would be optimistic if Gundam were to grab a C dash, go kill Mila right away, and then just sort of get on the warpath with as much as possible. I mean, obviously not exactly the situation you want, but definitely better than having no horizontal. And quitting out after doing that and not choosing to kill the Aluba, in my opinion, is a pretty unfortunate choice here from Gundam, considering that, you know, he was very close, though without the stuff to air stall over to it. It's definitely understandable.
Yeah, that unfortunate soul management in the Hornet fight, especially when you've got, dive or wraiths to quickly pile on damage. But if you don't have dash, you do need
Yep.
some way over the acid pools, as Volley is going to mark SWAT Tiso's shield away, bringing his lead up to 9-6, with basically a 10-6 sort of banked as soon as he gets back around to the Aluba at this point.
Yeah, exactly. And I think talking about paths to victory here, I mean, if you're Volley, you probably it's an interesting point, I suppose. This looks like a first recall, and I think that makes sense as a path to victory because really all you need is you get 2 dream bosses, failed champ and another of your choice, and then you go grab the Queen Station Stag, the essence you got, and probably Shade Cloak. You can go do Traitor Lord, and that's it for you if you're Volley. So a pretty clear path to victory here. Static path, which is really what you want to see. And just unfortunate that Gundam has not had luck in the checks he's done so far.
Yep, and here is where not having left claw comes to bite you. Wait, did he hazard respawn up to where he needs to go? Oh, but it doesn't matter. That last wall is just a little bit too high without wings
Yeah,
or left claw.
really unfortunate.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. That Dung Defender kill.
Yeah. That would have been that's the sad thing too in lockout is sometimes you can just find things that are so important where your opponent will never go because of the way goals work. Because fighting Gun Defender is a huge time commitment, and Gundam certainly in his mind would not see any sort of need to go and finish that out when there are so many other goals on the board. But it can be a pivotal sort of thing.
Yeah. And to Volley's credit, oh, and to also the randomizer's credit, as the failed champ decides to hop up on a ledge there. It's much like if, again, in the hypothetical where there was just one claw instead of split claw, Volley, marks kill Dung Defender and then immediately starts marking claw-locked goals. Gundam, can adjust the mindset and be like, okay, maybe I've got to sink the time in to do this. When you already have right claw and it's just the QOL of left claw, it's impossible. Even if Volley starts marking off a ton of claw-locked things, it's hard to prove it's oh, he found left claw there. Gundam is gonna get Spore Shrimp.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe.
Yeah, Gundam's gonna have a moment of realization here. Probably gonna be a less than joyful one, as this is a check that, as we obviously saw, could have been done minutes into the race. Hopefully, though, yeah, sort of a long stare. Hopefully, Remembrance. It looks like there may be with a warp to Queen Station, Remembrance of that dash. So at least that much is good.
Wait, Gundam puts Fortune on though.
Oh no. I do not believe he did. Oh lord.
So we'll get 2 quick trips out to this lore tablet. But
yeah, exactly.
Volley also having killed failed champion. It's not immediately apparent what you're doing for this next dream boss though, because either you have to go through all of Sanctum, which admittedly he does have nail art, so it's less awful. Or you're going to set up a shade skip to go to Lostkin. I think Lostkin is a comfier dream boss than Soul Tyrant, especially when you don't have void spells, but the setup to get there is much more painful.
Is this the... Are you able to do a simpler form of the shade skip than the infamous sort of 8 masks and glowing moon variant?
The 8 masks and glowing loom is sort of storied rando legacy. There's a plan that calls for the glowing loom shade skip, but all you need is a nail upgrade and fireball.
Okay.
Your shade health scales with your nail. So once you need a single nail upgrade to get your shade health above the 15 that a regular non-shaman fireball would do. And so what you can do is you can just fireball to aggro it, and then as long as it doesn't die, you can pogo it. The problem with the shade skip ordinarily, of course, is that the shade is just too far away for you to just bait it out with your body, so you need to aggro it with some sort of ranged attack. So the conventional way is nail upgrade fireball, but the rando special is glowing moon.
Yeah, that's sort of a fun and infamous little trick that you see in certain planned randomizers that typically force that sort of terror on you, but thankfully not required in this case thanks to Quack's understanding as well as Volley's. But yes, it does seem like overall Gundam just sort of gonna be... I think at this point, if you're Gundam, I mean, a Shade Soul is certainly nice to pick up, but the unfortunate truth is that you really have to be getting on some goals right now. I really think that if you're Gundam, you should just be going for the Green Path route, honestly, if you can, or just doing some other of these static goals, because you really need to lock Volley out of as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, Shade Soul and Dash does give you at least a little bit more comfort in something like the Soul Tyrant fight than Gundam would have had 5 minutes ago.
In Aluba, which I really like, because in the end, Volley has held off that goal for far too long to hold any sort of entitlement to it. We will see that mark there, as Volley really struggling with the shade skip, and I mean, it is no joke, even though we can talk about like the fabled version of it. It is a difficult skip.
And it looked like at the end there, Volley accidentally herded his shade a little bit too low and got it to dump into the spike, so you need to reset up the shade skip fully. So rightfully deciding to just warp away and perhaps do Soul Tyrant for the second Dream Boss instead. It's gonna be a rough fight with only base spells. Nail 2 helps a ton.
A lot.
In speeding up the fight, but
oh no,
there is also
this
all
may
of
be
Sanctum.
failed champ from Gundam. And that's the thing, is if Gundam really decides to go for it, we're gonna have to see, but with an entire Dream Boss of a lead, despite Gundam's clear damage upgrade with the Shade Soul, it's just very tough for this gold to be Gundam's, and you kind of hate to see it, because in the end, Gundam obviously doesn't know this is the path Volley's on, but it does following here. It does waste a ton of time, though it could still be somewhat of a race to getting Shade Cloak and associated things. So who knows? But it's
And that's
tough.
what I was thinking. Gundam has already beaten 0 at least, so maybe if he peels off and does like and concedes 2 dream bosses, but instead does like no eyes,
Yeah, that's
and warp super fast to get the essence gold, like get Shade Cloak for Trader Lord real fast, get Queen Station Sag as fast as possible.
Right.
That is, of course, assuming that he makes it through this failed champ fight. With Shaman Stone and Shade Soul, this fight becomes appreciably easier because you can just consistently triple hit failed champ when he's in his rage attack. And so if you down him once, you can down him 3 times very effectively. Without Shaman, it becomes a little bit harder, although having the extra Soul Vessel
very helpful, yeah.
You can do most of his health during the rage attack.
And with Dream Wielder,
yeah,
that's a common strat. Even though failed champ is definitely fast, Dream Wielder is still commonly used in speedruns and stuff to continue getting soul because you can't get it from his armor. And so yeah, I'm really hoping that from Gundam here, we'll see a degree of heads-up play simply because even by doing failed champ and Soul Tyrant, Volley will not hit the 629 essence for Cloak, nor the 685 essence for the Queen Station stat. So if Gundam's able to close that out even without having the 2 dream bosses, it's still pretty big, honestly. And with that QG stag as well, as long as Gundam's grabbing Shade Cloak, definitely has a significant advantage on the Trader Lord and Green Path route goals.
Yeah, but it is also hard when you're 1 dream boss in with 2 dream bosses from Bingo Board to make that call in the moment. We will see where he goes next with his 400 essence. Also worth noting that Volley from that Soul Warrior Bear did pick up the 2nd white fragment from the first white fragment, but what we saw, I believe, in King's Pass. Still no King's Brand, but birthplace before the end of the race, question mark?
I mean, who knows? Who knows what sort of wonderful goodies. Maybe that Kilomila was in birthplace all along. And this is No Eyes from Gundam, so this is good, because in the end seems to be some sort of understanding, because I mean the truth of the matter is that Volley hasn't marked a goal in a bit of time, and definitely is on some sort of warpath that's longer than what you would normally be on. And so with this 200 essence from No Eyes and maybe a quick kill of something else, could put him in a really good position. It's also notable that Gundam does not have nail upgrades, so No Eyes is particularly good, as you just saw.
Yeah, and that was a very well-behaved No Eyes. She got doubled, it looked like 3 or 4 times. Which,
yeah, and that's
I wish I could get that luck.
So I'm wondering, that looks like a warp to Leg Eater. Yeah, I think we're going to see Elder Who. Elder Who is 100 essence, and Volley will be heading into Soul Tyrant relatively soon. But I really like this play from Gundam, because gets both of those goals and gets really, really solid leads in to Trader Lord and with the QG stack, the Green Path route.
Worth noting, I suppose I was thinking of Gorb for the remaining 100 essence, but Gundam has tried both avenues into Howling Cliffs with no success that far, so this is the correct move, as Elder Who gets doubled as well. Dang, I want to steal some of Gundam's Green Warrior luck for speedruns and randos in the future.
Yeah, it is true ending runners are really jealous right now.
Meanwhile, Volley's starting the Soul Tyrant fight. Soul Tyrant is an obnoxious boss, I'm just gonna say. He moves so fast and has so much health. And like Gundam's already done with the Who fight, and I feel like Volley has gotten like three hits in to Soul Tyrant here.
Soul Tyrant stagger value is one of the highest in the game at 19, so you basically get no break and pretty much he teleports after every attack. And so with 1200 health, even though Volley has nail 2, this is going to take a while. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing a few goal marks before, yeah, grabbing that Queen Station Stag right away and grabbing that cloak as well. Yep, there we go.
Declining the 80 Geo. We're on a mission here.
Oh, yes. 80 Geo is nothing compared to the utter joys of Shade Cloak. Yeah, going straight to Queen Station, and then I suppose after that directly to Queen's Gardens. There is no stopping and passing go and collecting $200 at this point, because Gundam understands. And so we're over here, though. I'm wondering what this is.
We've already gotten the Mantis Village lore tablets marked off already. Wonder what this is the return for.
Yeah. No, I'm very much concerned. Mantis Lords would be, I mean, as much as I love the fight, probably not my first choice if I'm Gundam here. I really just think you want to make use of that stag. So maybe he just had an urge to go check Claw, but I'm not quite sure here. Really, it does not.
I mean, from Gundam's perspective, it is reasonable to conclude that you're losing 2 dream bosses. Maybe Gundam is hoping that by his having marked Ride the Stag to Queen's Station, Volley is not going to attempt to challenge him on Traitor Lord, and so Gundam rather is just switching to checks mode to try and get like Defender's Crest or another Claw would be great, even though that's not gonna happen.
Of course.
So it's a little hard to tell. I still think from a deficit on goals, I am a little bit more of a fan of just going for Traitor Lord. It could also be that the split claw affects that in some way, and Gundam needs to look for a claw. Now I gotta think about the path up to Traitor Lord.
Quite true. I'm now realizing.
You might need wings or another claw for that.
I'm realizing there are definitely some walls there you're supposed to climb with a left claw, and so. But, I mean, that being said, I do wonder about green path route access, especially because that is a longer goal that you have to open from 2 sides. At least getting a start in on that, in my mind, could be beneficial. But that being said, yeah, there is a real possibility that Gundam just really needs a left claw from Hero Wings or something of the like to continue soldiering on.
At the very least, taking away that Queen Station Stag from Volley is going to make him less inclined to rush down the Essence stuff, I believe. We'll see what Volley does, having cleaned up here. It looks like it is the Resting Grounds warp anyway, so this may just be a Volley finishing his food with Traitor Lord and Dreamer's checks, probably, given that he's got both halves of a claw.
Yeah, although here's the QG Stag from Gundam, and we're going to see probably some checks here, I suppose. And it is important to remember that I'm pretty sure Volley does not have that QG Stag, and so does have to go through a whole bunch of stuff to head over. And yeah, we're just gonna have to see, because Volley also has to get all 20 essence from this whispering route in order to get to the cloak. So that's another little chore that he has to perform before reaching progression. But Gundam's gonna check this Helena seal over here. We'll see if it's anything worth talking about.
Gundam with the cheeky little damage we just got out there. That's
Shaman Stone. Yeah, take what you can get on that front. Definitely, well, it's not progression, that's pretty much one of the best damage upgrades you could ask for, especially with the presence of that Shade Soul. So, yeah, we'll have to see. But this looks like, to me at least, an opening of the green path route, or not. So we're going down into Fog Canyon. Yeah, I'm wondering where we are from here.
Interesting. It looks like Wraiths and possibly entering Queen's Gardens this way can at least get that rancid egg that's right at the top of Queen's Gardens.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah,
Race
just
is
head down.
a very long check, but it looks like Gundam's skipping it in favor of the Shade Cloak entrance to QG. Probably gonna grab that egg. Um, we'll have to see here.
Well, meanwhile, it does look like it's going to open up that green path. Also stopping to kill off our favorite Mossy Boy, who is a randomized check in this randomization setting. So,
though you may consider him a living Geo-Rock, without Geo-Rocks randomized, technically a boss, and therefore will be providing us with a simple cave that we saw Gundam pick up earlier. But yeah, Gundam having to deal with this Petra Arena. I'm very interested to see sort of where this will go. I'm wondering if that Mantis. Oh, that is an unfortunate death right there. Yeah, you really hate to see it. But I wonder if that Mantis Village visit was sort of a contemplating how do I get into Deep Nest for 5 grubs and perhaps a check of Hera? And then decided that it would be better to access Deep Nest via QG. That's sort of my guess, maybe, as to why we're going through QG this way, because otherwise he would go down by the stag, but that requires the worst arena in the game.
yeah.
But I'm really not sure.
Although now with Shaman Shade Soul, as we just saw with Gundam's unfortunate death, it's still very possible to get bullied by Petras at the leg, but with Shaman Shade Soul, that's about as nice as you're going to get that arena. And meanwhile, Volley is swapping over to starting to worry about hot springs. We've seen a Pleasure House trip, we've seen a Coliseum trip, I'm pretty sure we've seen a Crossroads trip, so it is just a quick trip into
Yeah,
Deep
we've
Nest.
definitely seen a Crossroads trip, and so heading through here, because yeah, I do contemplate sort of the very easy path to Deep Nest through sort of the Spore Shroom area is not accessible to Gundam without left claw, and so to me that makes some sense that he would go this way. This is the next easiest path, but yeah, Volley is able to just sort of hop on over, go for it. Grab this lore tablet over here.
So from here, Gundam very much on the back foot, but it looks like is going to clamber on over to Deep Nest. Does not, I believe, have any set of equipment that would allow him to perform a love key skip, so is going to bypass that, say hello to these mossy vagabonds, and enter Deep Nest himself. It looks like Vale is just ahead of him on this whole run, especially since Gundam is opting to check Spore Shroom out first. Or keep going backwards into Fungal, or grab the lore tablet.
Probably heading for this lore tablet. And yeah, I mean, I think that these two players are definitely heading into Deep Nest with different focuses, in that sort of Volley's looking to grab that last hot spring, and then we'll see whether or not he determines it's worth staying in Deep Nest for half of 2 Dreamers checks and 5 grubs. But I feel like if you're Gundam here, you're heading straight down to Mimic Grub and just going from there, because you haven't taken the trip to the Hollow Hot Spring as far as I remember. And yeah, going straight there. So I think that's a wise choice, and there's a strong possibility that sort of Gundam has faith in this case, that Volley's gonna... Oh yeah, Volley does need to do Pleasure House. That Volley's going to be focused on other goals other than more sort of QG ones.
Yeah, now I think we've seen 3 simple keys between all of the runners with the one at Mantis Village as well, so yeah. Probably going to do a quick round up to Pleasure House. Will he say hi to Marissa? Asking for a friend.
Let's hope he says hi to Marissa in a peaceful way. I mean, as much as the lack of seed ads has been rather surprising, I am certainly in favor of there being no Mila killing in this race. The seed is truly blessed with moral correctness this time. And no hello to Marissa.
We got goals to grab.
Not in a previous manner. And so yeah, we have bigger focuses here. As Gundam heading down to this hot spring bench and probably will keep on the grub train from there, although seems to be heading to check this vessel fragment. Maybe Sharp Shadow as well.
Yeah, at this point, Gundam seems to be in a fairly full clear sort of mode. 2 Dreamers checks, maybe a pain without both claws or wings. Traitor Lord is a pain without both claws or wings, and everything else is in deepness or random or both. Just trying to, like, a wing somewhere where Volley is not likely to get it is probably the best possible scenario at this point for Gundam. And if not that, then at least grabbing deepness grubs while he's here.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think that if you're Gundam right now, you just really need some sort of movement advantage to get these goals, because it is just so hard. Volley leveraged such a significant dash advantage and has had a side of claw that Gundam just will not see for the rest of this time, and so it's just really unfortunate. And so you're just hoping for some wings or sea dash of sorts to sort of take you through.
Although I gotta say, in terms of raw execution, right, Gundam has been pretty heroic in making half a claw work for him to this point. It's just been some of those unfortunate late game goals where you really do need 2 forms of vertical in some capacity, whether that is a fully functioning claw or half a claw and wings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gundam, as you just saw that whole, like, vessel fragment check, like, extremely practiced, knows this movement like the back of his hand, and is able to do it with all. I mean, you can see moving through this area of the fluke inhabitants, despite how terrible it is, you just handle it very well, and that's just the sort of expertise that you just really come to appreciate from these runners. Is gonna go beat up Fluke Farm to see if this really was the cursed Fluke seed we all dreaded in past randos, but yeah, it looks like Volley's gonna be grabbing full bench here and heading
Fluke Farm, everyone's favorite damage check. If you don't have nice things, it's one of the worst fights in the game. If you do have nice things, it is a free lore tablet. That's a little unfortunate for Gundam.
Fluke Farm would like to inform Gundam of the greatness of Un, probably not the greatness he was hoping for. And yeah, Volley's gonna do the worst arena in the game. Have some fun with Mantis traders. We'll just see from here.
Glad we did actually get to see this arena after all the time spent hyping it up. But yeah, you can see here slightly different vibe from the Shade Soul Everything vibe that Gundam is now on, but at least Nail 2 able to keep these combats from getting too prolonged here, although when the Mantis Traders decide to just walk into you, sometimes you just have to lie down and take that.
Yes, it is true. I think sort of the big thing about this arena is that not only is it just a challenge of skill, it's also just a challenge of stamina. There are so many waves, and each one has difficult enemy after difficult enemy, but Volley able to make it through, and that just shows the power of nail upgrades, sort of being a substitution for the upgraded spells that Gundam has. But it looks like Gundam attempting to open the side of the route there, and not quite being able to do it. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like I've seen sort of a hazard respawn thing over there, but I could be wrong. I could just be misremembering.
You can hazard respawn even with no vertical to get up to that. I think Gundam may be tunneling in on some different checks right now. I'm not 100% certain. This could be going back for cliffs. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how that plays out. Meanwhile, Volley has made it up to Trader Lord Shade Gate.
So we could see where that sort of left claw or wings was required. That wall back there. And so yeah, gonna get this goal.
Once he takes this, he'll be sitting at 12 to 8, 1 goal away. With both halves of the claw, get 2 Dreamers checks is ripe for the taking. Green Path route also literally right there while you're in QG anyway. I don't believe he went around to get the stag bench, so we'll have to backtrack for a little bit, but still should not be a problem once Volley gets 12 to close out for 13.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just, really have to commend him for the way he played this. Not making too big of a deal of his notable movement advantages until it was kind of too late. That's some really good lockout play there. Because in the end, in lockout, you don't really want to show your opponent that you're ahead. You just kind of want to roll up at the end and be like, hey, kind of had a big advantage.
Well, that said,
but
Volley gave us all a little bit of a heart attack.
Yeah, with 2 mask damage, being at 2 masks is effectively Fury strats. But hopefully we'll be able to just sort of head through.
Alright, there's the kill.
So we'll be able to go say hi to Mom. The White Lady gives us a check, of course, and then at that point, it looks like we'll close out with a goal of his choice, unless the White Lady has something spectacular enough to seal the match on her own.
White Lady give Defender's Crest for the ultimate insult to injury.
Oh boy, that would be tragic.
Other than that, I think we're in for another static goal, as Gundham is going to give us the Mantis Lord's content.
Fury of the Fallen, reminding Volley of his rather anxiety-inducing segment against Trader Lord there, but yes, we love to see the Mantis Lords. It's a very fun fight, and quick with the amount of damage Gundham has.
Yeah, it is one of those fights. Mantis Lords and Grim, and obviously Mantis Lords, Pantheon, equivalent Sisters of Battle. Any of the fights that can start to feel like a rhythm game or like a dance routine at high levels are just so exciting to me, and I think that is a commonly shared sentiment among the community.
Absolutely. It just feels very cool, and it feels even cooler when you don't really have to worry about getting too much time wasted on it, because once you've got a Shade Soul, or my favorite is a Dish Shriek against the Lords, then it's quick and beautiful. But yeah, here's the route from Volley. We'll start this out, and then oh my gosh, it's open. How beautiful.
Did open it. So this is a route that famously is a little bit nicer if you have the Crystal Card ability. The All Whispering Routes speedrun delays this route. Well, first of all, because you need the C-Dash to get into Queen's Gardens, but also because these like double layers of Essence Orbs can be picked up with one convenient C-Dash, which is really nice, but unfortunately C-Dash has hidden itself from us, as has Isma's, so this is going to be a sort of protracted...
Isma's wing. All hiding. So yeah, this route is a little bit more difficult here, but thankfully it's just these runners are quite skilled at pogoing, so they're able to get all the essence they need.
Shoutouts to Bingo UI mod that will also additionally tell us when this route is finished off, and that is going to be 13-8 for Volley in the end. We'll see Gundham finish out the stream delay here, going to go try and grab Mantis Lord's rewards before pausing and giving the GG, I imagine. So that was a fantastic showcase of some of the like drafting decisions early on. Well, I think we're going to be able to get the runners in here for a little bit, maybe, to talk about their race. Yes. So if Volley and Gundham want to join on up and say their piece about the race from their perspective.
Yes.
GG. Okay, GG's.
GG's to both of you folks. Really well played on a lot of levels. Any immediate thoughts after finishing up?
I will kill that Moss Knight. Every single run I do from now on, I will go to Lake of Fun and kill that Moss Knight, I swear.
I'm also a little bit frustrated about the lack of other vertical because right claw really is the bad claw. You cannot get up to QG without left claw unless you want to do some really junk sheet skip. You cannot get to clips without left claw.
Uh,
What did we? I think that something else happened that I needed left claw for. So in the end, it was for me just hunt for the left claw or wings.
yeah.
Unsuccessful, unluckily, but still GG's to Oliver was the other vertical by the way.
Yeah, I mean, Volley, when you did find that left claw, how'd you feel about that?
I was like, okay, Gundam is never going to find this. This is good for me.
It was a dunk defender.
Yep, it's right below
Yeah, and
him.
especially showcasing the difference there between the value of each half of claw. The heartbreaking moment where it looked like Gundam, you had hazard respawned to where you needed to be on your way up to cliffs, but then it was still not quite enough because there was one additional right-facing wall. It was so rough.
Yeah, truly.
Maybe there is some kind of a shade skip that I don't know, but that has to be a junk one.
Yeah.
Uh,
So, shoutouts to my shade fireballing me at last skin. That was very fun.
oh, you
was a
wait.
good.
Oh, that's how the two dream bosses took so long.
Yeah, he set up the he tried to set up the shade skip to Broken Vessel Lost Kin, but unfortunately he had a bad dunk where his shade also dunked, so it was a quick
Yeah.
pivot to Soul Tyrant because you only have one attempt of those in your per race.
Luckily, did give me enough time to at least get the Queen Station stack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Gundam, did you just sort of figure that Volley was on that path and decided I'm gonna go grab some other stuff here?
Well, I think that after he marked Baylurker, I knew that he has the second vertical because getting up to True Kingdom's
Yeah.
Edge with just right claw is weird. I don't think it's even possible.
Yeah, I don't think so
Uh,
either.
so that's why I went to Mantis Village to catch up if the vertical was not there. It wasn't, so I just went to hunt to some random checks like Flukmarm. Was not rewarded, but hey, good nice lore.
I was rooting for Flukemar.
We all
Yeah,
were.
awesome. Any last things you'd like to say about draft lockout, about the rando folks in general? I know it's been nothing but an honor and a privilege to be able to com for rando as often as I have been able to. And shout outs to Herm for hopping on the mic with me.
Oh, absolutely a joy. I've always dreamed of being able to commentate Rando since the lockout tournament we had last year. And it's just so impressive to see these new formats grow and develop.
I have to say that the draft lockout is kind of a new thing to me, but I like it very much. I was part of a lockout tournament, and the snowball there could be very strong with an early movement, but this kind of neglects it because everyone gets some early goals, and then it can go longer, and we can see some nicer shade skip and boss fights. So I like this format very much, and hope hope it gets showcased.
Yeah.
Including all the new stuff that is in the randomizer like split claw.
I want to say huge shoutouts to Quack and Herm for coming this, huge shoutouts to Gundam for doing this with me, and also huge shoutouts to Flip for making Split Claw and adding all the logic to it.
Yeah, shout out the randomizer mod has been truly like people standing on shoulders of people for like at this point a
Absolutely.
couple generations to make the lovely, lovely monstrosity we have today. Yeah, awesome. Thanks everyone. Hope to see you again soon. Hope to see you in more formats, in more races down the line.
Yeah, thank you
I,
so
I
much.
I want to say one last thing in the end because I encountered one glitch after Massive Moss Charger where my screen got black. So we paused for a bit and decided to neglect it. But in journey race or marathon race, we would probably like stop time and I would go where the glitch happened and resume it there. So just for the sake of keeping this fair, but we decided that this time it did not have really that much of a that it really wasn't that much of an issue, so we just did leave it go.
Makes sense. Awesome. Thanks everyone.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
thanks.